It's just so I'm cold in here. That's my problem today.
All right. Kathy, I think we're live.
Welcome to business. I haven't seen the countdown.
It
Yep.
went.
Oh, welcome to, sorry about that, everyone. Welcome to Business as Unusual. As you can see, this is the live stream where we explore some of the pressing issues and emerging trends that are shaping the business landscape. We're going to start in a few minutes. So if you have questions, please feel free to add them to the chat. And I'm going to try to get to everything during today's session. So if you've got questions about food manufacturing, being a owner of a family owned business, or if you can stump Kate by asking a trivia question about The Office, I'll buy you lunch. I'm Kathy Steele, and I'm your host today. I am the CEO of Red Caffeine. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with Red Caffeine, we're a growth consultancy, and we build and execute grow to market plans for ambitious mid market organizations. Our service offering includes a fractional team led by a senior level marketing leader that enables a business to scale rapidly without hiring a wide range of full-time staff members. So we've got a surprise guest here as well today, and she would be our senior level marketing leader, Christiana Henry. And as I was prepping for today's conversation, I was thinking about, oh my gosh, as a business leader, we're just navigating so much, and I felt like, that used to be kind of un extraordinary, but now it feels more ordinary that we're seeing, every time we open our email, it's economic drama, the tariffs. We get at least 5 emails a day if we own businesses about organizations that want to buy our companies. We have to think about workforce dynamics. And then, even things that are like hot topics in our organizations, like how are we going to use AI? We're just juggling so much. So when is there really time to really stop and take an introspective look at our business and boldly make some changes? And so our guest today, Kate Rome, did just that. She and I met, I think like 3 years ago at a Women in Manufacturing conference, and I can't exactly, as we were talking about it earlier, I can't exactly remember how we met, but I'm likely going to say it had something to do with us maybe both wearing red or both wearing really cool shoes or something like that. But when you meet Kate, she's just absolutely unforgettable. I think of Kate as that one sign that says classy, sassy, and it should say for her a lot badassy. But she's fun, she's high energy. And so I'm thrilled to have her here joining us today. Kate, do you want to share a little short intro about yourself and Rome? And we always love it if you'll share something personal that's not on your professional bio.
Sure. You had on, I think it was a red leather jacket. That's what it was.
Oh,
And I
sounds
was
right.
like, yep,
I figured
that's it.
some red
Yep,
connection.
absolutely. Who would have known it was going to turn into this beautiful collaboration and friendship, obviously. So, yeah, I'm Kate Rome. I'm third generation of our family business, Rome Grinding Solutions. We have been in business since 1977. We're transitioning into the fourth generation now. So, over the years, the business has developed from the oil mill industry to the rendering industry, and then food production. So I've been in the business for 27 years. As the story goes, my father tried to fire me every day when I came to work because he didn't want his daughter in the business. It was okay that my twin sister, did different. She was the smart one. She didn't want to be in the business. Fun fact: she is now. She's our CFO. But yeah, just here 27 years later trying to just keep grinding. So something about me that's not in my bio. I'm kind of a Lego nerd. I like to build Legos, which I know Parker at Red Caffeine can appreciate. So that's it. Otherwise, I'm kind of boring, really.
Oh my gosh. I don't think I knew that. And I'm just like like so inspired by Lego art. I'm always like, how do they do that? It's amazing. So
Wine and a Lego
yeah,
set, I'm
it is
good.
really,
I'm good.
it's for all ages. And what a great story. I don't know if you ever read their founding story. It's pretty interesting how they came back. They were kind of destined to fail for a time period. And Christiana, why don't you just give a quick intro as well, since you're joining us
Sure,
today,
I'd be
kind
happy
of
to. So, I
appearance.
am an account director here at Red Caffeine, and more specifically, I am Kate's account director. So, I've been on the Rome account since the very beginning, very happily. I did not wear a red leather jacket, but I sure made my presence known. I think I showed up for the first time to meet you in person, Kate, in red shoes. So maybe that's
Yes.
my tie-in.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
yes, I've been with Red Caffeine for close to 5 years, but the last 18 or so months of working with Kate and the rest of the Rome team has been so incredible because we've really gotten to demonstrate the value of true partnership and also leverage all of our services across the board. So it has been such an exciting project. I'm excited for Kate to share her story, but also feel so proud of this work. And I know the rest of the Red Caffeine team does too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Well, let's kind of take you back. I think the quote is "double down, not back down," and I feel like I reconnected with you. I would see you over the years at the events, and I reconnected with you, and it was kind of a time in your business that was really chaotic. You were undergoing some personal loss and just some professional uncertainty. So, what really helped you sort of pick yourself up by the bootstraps and get be focused on going to the next level of growth versus sort of going with the rest of the industry in terms of entertaining offers to sell the business? What was on your mind at that time that said, I'm going to grow this
Sure,
organization?
sure. Also, a little bit hard for me to talk about because I just lost my father-in-law last week. So I'm going to kind of choke back the tears and tell a couple
Yeah.
stories here. But for me, it's always been about legacy. When my grandfather was sick and dying of cancer, I made him two promises, and that was to take care of my grandmother and take care of this company and never sell it. So that's always been no pressure at 19 years old. In knowing I made that commitment and that promise, I was not going to drop the ball. And then over the years, I was constantly reminded that the third generation, my generation, is usually the ones that lose the company. Again, no pressure. So I felt like the idea of legacy was always in the forefront of my mind. But then when my mom passed away just shy of a couple of years ago, I kept thinking big picture legacy. What now? It's not like it affected the business at all, but it affected us as we're reflecting about life and next steps and next generation. So we kind of started using legacy in a different term, past just the family, the Rome family, with everyone. And so I would definitely say, with all the acquisition that's happening, it's selling kind of that word triggers me because I'm obviously so protective of the brand and my family. But it's just all about legacy to me.
Yeah, I mean, it is incredible. I think manufacturing, the space is really known for legacy business, and to be working with 50, 75, 100 plus year old organizations and seeing them stay relevant and modern. It's so interesting. But I want to kind of take you through some of the early stages of the work that we were doing together in the discovery process. We really dug into the history of the organization, what was going on with your employees, your culture, really unpacking the different jobs that were being done across the organization. There was just a lot of work in that beginning stage, competitive, looking at your footprint online. I think even some things that surprised me in terms of what we unearth in those early conversations. So tell us, what were some of the things that really struck you from that time, that like initial kind of digging in phase of the work?
I didn't realize how intensive it was going to be, which is probably good. But I definitely, you know what I mean?
Right. You
Yeah,
probably wouldn't do
exactly.
it.
And it's
Yeah.
like, that forced of taking the step back and looking at, it's like seeing yourselves clearly for the first time. It's like looking in a mirror and you see all the imperfections or whatever. I thought I had, especially my executive team, have the handle on the business, which we did. That wasn't it, but it really forced us to take a step back and look at literally everything, how we do business, internal processes, external processes, and we leaned in hard to that, and really gave us um, some insights to things that I would have never thought of, right? And when we leaned in, we knew that we needed experts to help us. I always say, I'm an expert in Rome grinding solutions, but getting so caught up in the day to day, it was refreshing to get an outside perspective. And it was so labor intensive and it was frustrating at times. And I'm sure Christiana wanted to shake us most of the time. Like, okay, guys, we got to do the work. We got to do this. It's like, but what came out of that was our someday goals had plans and marching orders and accountabilities. And we gained insights that I would never have thought about having not gone through that process, right? It was really down in the nitty gritty.
And I just want to add, I think there's a huge, huge level of trust that has to happen there.
Yes.
Kate and the entire executive team not only committed to doing the work, and they were timely with homework and it was really important to them to give us the answers, but they really trusted us with that information and with what we were going to uncover. I think, Kate, we've had conversations about the fact that when you made that commitment to your grandfather and you made the promise to keep the business running, you also were making a promise to yourself to put your own stamp on things and create your own legacy as that third generation. And I think trusting us with those promises and those intentions is not an easy thing, especially when you're uncovering some things that might be difficult to hear or challenging to approach. But you all dug into it and said, okay, we made this investment for the long haul, for the future of the business. And so let's get to work here. You guys were committed
Yeah,
every step of the way.
you're
Mhm.
right. It's funny that you say that because having gone through it now, it's like trying to think back to then, but you're right. That's good perspective on it. Yeah, we were ready to
Yeah,
Yeah.
a fresh takeover.
right. But I, to Christiana's point, you definitely came at it with such a growth mindset. I mean, we sort of set up with clients that there's an expectation of, an excellent experience for both teams. And that's on our list of things that we need from you, is that growth mindset. And I really think it is hard for people sometimes to, think about things that aren't going well and talk about things that aren't going well, especially when it's across a few different teams. But that's where the magic happens, when you're able to kind of step back and really unearth things that are holding you back from progress. And I felt like so much of that was embraced versus, we've had clients say, we don't want to take a survey of our employees because we don't want to hear the bad news. Like, oh my gosh, that's so, that is so limiting, I think. And that was not at all our experience with you and your team. So let's talk a little bit about the brand, because I think that's just so important. I mean, again, like, you stand out in a room just because of, the way you dress, and you
I'm pretty
are the
muted
brand,
today. No
and
red.
you're.
No red. What the heck?
I was so hoping for the twinsy
Little text
experience
message
with
next
wearing
time.
reds, but I know I really should have set it up better. But So the brand, refresh. I think a lot of times people are thinking logo, and if I remember correctly, your grandmother did the
Yes.
first iteration of the Rome branding and logo, and we weren't looking to make massive sweeping changes on the brand, but there was a little bit of a facelift, and so talk a little bit about what surprised you most, or what did you get behind most as we were starting to do some of the branding work?
I, I thought, oh, our brand is perfect. We're fine. I don't understand what red caffeine is going to unearth here. But it wasn't that we needed a full makeover. We just needed a little bit of refresh, right? We're not the experts in that kind of stuff. So what struck me the most going through this was realizing that, I mean, we knew we had a strong brand. Obviously, industry recognition, we run deep with that, but we were still a little bit misunderstood by the people that were closest to it, including our internal people. I felt like the name and the brand needed to show more possibility, right? So again, doing this work and making a few tweaks, it's like a refresh look, and using some words and new visuals. It's like encompassing the whole heart of who we are as a company and our family. Um, so I feel like with the refresh, it's a more confident logo. It's a more confident feel, and we've again really leaned into that. And I never knew upon doing this, I see the logo up here, that the original logo that we had, that E was offset, that line in the middle. How I didn't know that, I don't know, but now I can't unsee it. So the refreshed, obviously having some more symmetrical, um, it just makes sense, right?
Yeah. I also think, Kate, just to build on what you're saying, it was um, not only about, some of the refresh we did, the alignment of the E, the typefacing, and building out your brand standards together, but it was also how do we bring this legacy brand, this brand that has so much significance in the industry, forward in a way that we're really celebrating things, right? How do we make sure that the red is as powerful as it needs to be? That's sometimes by not using it as much, right? Or bringing some
Correct.
other things forward, like the blue of the work shirts, and having that become part of it. But I also think, more importantly, one of the first things that struck us was that the family piece was not very apparent in the brand. And it was
Correct.
important, in order for the authenticity to come through, both externally and internally, to find ways to now start bringing that forward, right? And that's where we get into
Forgot
things
about
like
that. You're
the
right, Kristen.
photography, the messaging, what's that brand story that we need to tell in a you know, in a way that really helps bring the family piece forward, and
Mhm.
also reminds people of the ultimate, what Rome Grinding Solutions is doing. It's not just about the grinders, it's about the food safety, it's about those families out there that are buying your customers' end product. So, I don't know if you wanna talk a little bit about what that work was like for you, and especially, I know the photo shoot was so near and dear to you,
Oh,
and
it was.
it looks like Kathy is trying to get reconnected, but in the meantime, I think, Kate, let's have you talk a little bit about that component, because I know that was huge for the staff in terms of their pride coming through as well, and their feeling of family coming through as well.
I feel like that I see these and I'm like, oh, that's Lane. That's all my people, right? That's Tita, our welding supervisor of almost 20 years. I feel I knew the importance of having that photo shoot because we are a family brand. Our people are the heart of who we are and what we do. But I really think it brought forward just authenticity, right? Um, how hard everyone works. And what came about from this, besides these amazing pictures, was how proud our team members are of being featured on the website, on the social media, sharing it with their families. Um, I feel like it makes the brand ours, but also relatable, right? Yeah, my
Yeah.
picture's on the website here and there or whatever, but there's Josie, our female welder there in the corner, and she is featured on the back of our trade show booth in life size. And I say life size, it's gigantor. And at the last show we were at, we had people ask us, "Oh, what did you hire a model to, And I'm like, "That is Josie. She's real, she's human, she's with us." So it's kind of funny, but I feel like it just really gave us an added touch of, yeah, authenticity and relatability.
So, do the employees now go visit the website all the time to see their
Yes.
photos?
Yes, absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
I love
Or I'll
that.
be like, "Hey, I see you were on XXX page, this page. Make sure you show your mom." Or, "Hey, show your wife. Make sure to show your kids. Don't forget, you're here too," right?
Yes. Yes.
It's and them being featured on the trade show booth and in the collateral, and it's 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 special.
Yes. So I know that, from your perspective and having already committed and given yourself over to the process and knowing that the brand was a big element of the plan, I wonder, for those business owners and leaders out there who are nervous to do something like this or concerned about the investment because it is a sizable investment. You're asking people to take time out of their daily production work to maybe pose for something or to be part of an all staff shot or something like this. It can be disruptive. What would you say? And, what was it that really helped you embrace this part of the branding process? To build out your asset
Thankfully,
library.
yeah. I feel like it was less disruptive than I thought it was going to be. And I say that we were very planned. It was a 2-day photo shoot. After the end of the second day, everyone was, especially because it was like the executives and our leadership team, we were so tired of pictures because there's like a bazillion million pictures. But it was well planned, it was well orchestrated. And the employees really thought it was awesome, right? They were just doing their jobs and getting their pictures taken. And a few things were like, "Hey, we don't want to use this area of the floor right now. So, let's go work over here." But I feel like it was less disruptive than what I thought. I think the hardest thing to coordinate was all the clothes.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't that sound funny? It's like the clothes is the hardest thing. Is like making sure, we had just gotten the new logos, making sure all the logos were up to date and everybody had new apparel. And, you know, that, that was a labor of love, I feel like.
Yes, yes. I know the apparel was an important thing, but I also, again, admired the commitment to wanting to ensure that the blue was just right, that the
Oh,
red was just right, and we had just had all of those brand standards finalization so we could lean into that, and, I think it made all the difference for
it did.
things.
And again, the team just loves it. And yeah, I'm so proud of it.
I'm so glad. I mean, we're also proud of it as well. I wanna talk a little bit more about the brand evolution. So a few moments ago, we were talking about the messaging and bringing the family forward in a lot of the brand evolution that was done. Making food production as safe as possible for our family and yours is the value proposition that really comes forward. It's what the internal teams are embracing as they think about their daily work. Why did this value proposition hit home the most for you, your team, and your customers?
I think that was one of the out of the discovery, and you all learning so much about our business and getting that outside perspective. It, it wasn't just, it's not just a slogan to us, it's personal, right? we don't see ourselves as just the manufacturers. We see ourselves of like stewards of safety and quality and trust, right, in the food production change. And then from our family to yours struck a chord because it it really just hit home. It was like our why, right? It was like finally you could summarize the importance of the work we're trying to do here, and how we run our business and lead our business and the culture and all those things. And ultimately our jobs and what we do, the people that we sit down with and have meals that have been processed through our grinders, like it summed it up. It was the why. And it was I remember the first time Bill, I hope Bill's listening, read us, here's an idea in this. And I literally like speechless, right? Which doesn't happen very often, those people that know me. And I just like welled up with tears. I was like, yes, you captured the heart of us.
Yeah. Welcome back, Kathy. We're so glad to have you here. We've just been talking about the brand, and I think you're probably about to pivot to some of the questions around sales strategy and customer growth and marketing, but I want to add a through line there in terms of the value proposition and what that meant, because Kate, I think one of the other conversations we've had and that Bill really hit on as he was coming up with that value proposition was really around this notion of thinking not just about your customers and what you were delivering to them, but also their customers, right? And the end customer, which is not common often in a B2B business to think about, but it really helped you move from transactional engagement to relational engagement with your customers. So I think that that's an important note. And I think that that leads nicely to some of the conversation around the business growth and the customer experience and the sales strategy. So Kathy, I don't know if you want to come back in there.
Yeah, I mean, I know I don't know if we talked about this, but I think what hit home for me, in that whole kind of process was just how you were connecting that differentiation of the family. In a marketplace where there was a lot of M&A activity and consolidation of organizations, um, being family owned felt differentiated, and being able to kind of leverage that as part of your positioning and value proposition in the language. And then I also, I don't know if we talked about this at all, but that ability to showcase your products against some of the products that get made with your products. I thought that was it's just such a cool tie-in to, showcasing what you do and just how common it is to be eating the food that your products have ground. So it really came together in such a interesting way, and it just felt so much like you when we got there.
We got the right amount of pepperonis on the
That's
pizza.
right.
God, that was such a
That
hot
was
topic.
a whole meeting just about the pepperonis, wasn't it?
Pepperonis, and yeah, it's like
I did hope you mentioned the blue, because I'll never.
we
I felt
did.
like when that
We
blue
should
got,
lean into that a
yeah,
little bit
yeah,
more.
yeah.
And I say that because when you guys first said, let's do this in blue, and I was immediately like, no.
No. Yeah, we got a hard
no.
pass on that blue.
Hard no. And little prying, little, okay, Kate, let's think, then finally we're like, okay, all right. And it's my favorite now. So
It is well embraced.
Yeah. You're right.
So
It is, as we know, it is challenging to find colors that go well with red and really help reinforce that red brand, but red's a lot. So I love the introduction to the blue.
Kathy,
So
our point on that, sorry, I know you were about to move on, but our point on that too was how do we make the red more powerful? And it's actually to lean away from it a little bit.
Correct. Yeah.
And it also just goes to show that sometimes a first reaction, when you get a little more context and we showed some of the use cases and we showed how it could be, then we started to get a little more of the, I'll sleep on it, I'll consider it, you know.
Just rethink.
Right.
Yeah. I do love the blue.
Yeah, and the actual, internal photography is just so compelling. I think that part of the work that we do, was around the sales strategy. And I think a lot of organizations are struggling. I mean, sales is super challenging no matter how good your product is, how good your organization and customer service experience is. I think during that process, we had heard from you that a lot of your clients were thinking about you more in the aftermarket, which may play well for you in the next, as what's going on in the economy right now. But how did some of those sales insights and sales conversations start to transform the efforts to help reposition the organization in the eyes of the marketplace around your
Sure.
products?
And I think one of the things that did surprise me as well, which I feel like I've said a lot, was when we went into this and started getting, customer feedback, and that we did have a fair amount of people that obviously viewed us as the trusted repair company, which spoke to our reliability after all these years, but missed the
Right.
fact that we offered more. And I think that sales transformation really shifted the perspective, but then also gave us an opportunity to really align our sales process with our full capabilities. So, which, in turn, we went from being more of a reactive process to a proactive process. But the messaging and the visuals and the tools now available to our sales team really um, turned the dial and really helped us with the brand breakthrough, which is weird to say because our brand was strong before, but um, even stronger now.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, salespeople tend to get into sales because they are people. They like being around people. They love building relationships. They want to help everyone, and that does tend to predicate that activity, or like we'll do anything for anyone. And so really leaning in to understanding the best fit, the right fit clients, we call them blue chip, adding things like the partnership reviews, and really being able to get in front of clients and talk about the relationship, not just about the transactional, sales things. It definitely changes the dynamic, and it changes the, you know, position as a trusted advisor versus like the guy, you still want to be able to save the day if there's a parts or service issue for sure. So, talk a little bit about how those things have been going,
Sure.
since we've really leaned into
Um,
those, identifying
like you
those.
said, being family owned, we, jumping at every chance. And I mean, I'm not just probably for every family owned business, but we take that, um, our parts and pieces and equipment going out have our, family name on them. Right. But for years, they jumped at everything. Right. So it was a lot of busy work, but not a lot of strategic building work. So that shift in identifying and going after the best fit customers really gave us clarity and confidence and really control. Thankfully, our chief revenue officer, Ryan, was I thought this would be the hardest for him because he's been here the longest, right? But he really embraced it with his team and the new tools and the new structure, and the new vision. And when they started seeing results from, shorter cycle times, stronger relationships, more strategic conversations, which led to, you know, um, more innovative products that we're building. Our focus now, spinning off of that and the work that our sales team has done, was the entire customer experience, right? Every touch point, every, you know, obviously the website, the sales experience, the customer service, and how people are doing business with Rome, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So we just got a question. I know we're going to talk a little bit about technology, but I'll ask it now. Like, how has innovation in technology changed for Rome over the years? Are you using, they're asking, are you using like AWS, Azure, any other clouds, or is it really a private cloud? Thanks, Ruben, for clarifying it. So how has, I mean, when you think of innovation, I know, you're thinking about product, but you're also, I mean, we just talked about, how to innovate in terms of customer experience when we did our last one-on-one. So there's a lot of ways to think about innovation.
Yep.
Can you speak to that a little bit in terms of how you position the organization?
Right now, we did just talk about this, Kathy. That's funny because we're looking into some new innovations in our process for customer experience. But for me, innovation is designing new products. That's what has really come out of this shift in doing all this experience, all these kind of breaking down the bare bones of your business and changing your sales structure. And then all of a sudden you're having partnership meetings and the amount of work on my engineering staff right now is all on the equipment innovation side mostly.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's how anybody gets to a 100-year
Yeah.
business is they have to be iterating, they have to be innovative, they have to be willing to say like what got us here won't get us
Correct.
there. Um, so back to kind of the sales process and conversations. Trade shows are a huge part of the way you go to market. And so, we did a lot of thinking about that expenditure and the maximizing your time at conferences, maximizing the impact that your team would have at conferences. So talk a little bit about some of the work we've done around, that part of the sales strategy.
Sure. The new booth looks amazing in these pictures, by the way. I love it so much. But
Amazing.
I feel like our brand and our presence were always known, but I'm not going to lie, we really kind of sucked at trade shows. And I say that I mean, we're there, we're doing business, we're talking to our customers and the other people we partner with, but we didn't really stop and focus. I feel like, we weren't doing a good job at pre-show anything. During show, yeah. Post show, I do believe we were pretty good at that. Our sales team was um, pretty good at that. But as far as there was no prep, no key targets, no aligned messaging or specific goals, it seems like each person that was in that booth had their own agenda. And so now we've really focused and do the steps, do the things. The ROI is easier, obviously, to swallow on that expense. But the result is obviously better leads, again, stronger ROI. But our team was always confident in the trade show booth. That's not the thing that, they're good at talking about our products, but the team was just aligned in a different way now than I've ever seen before. Is really, it seems so basic, right? Do your work pre, during, post, and it's easy to justify. Definitely have gotten better.
Yeah, I feel like I think that's a big thing for almost every organization. It's interesting that there is so little planning. I mean, I can remember, I didn't even think about that a client would not get the scanner. They spent thousands of dollars,
And you're not going
thousands
to
to get
spend the
people there to their
$399
booth.
on the scanner.
Exactly, exactly. I'm like, are you serious? So now we're gonna ask your salespeople to dig into all of those business cards that they collected and try and do an after communication. But it sounds funny and we're making a joke about it, but it's the accurate truth that this is a big endeavor. It takes a lot. I mean, look at your booth. I mean, I've been to some of the trade shows that you've done. You've had equipment in the booth before. I mean, it's a massive undertaking to do some of these events. So not having a strategy, not thinking about who you want to see when you're on site. I think we even talked about how to transition people within the booth to make sure that they're talking to the right subject matter experts, and how to make sure everybody has breaks so nobody walks up to your booth and everybody's on their phone trying to answer an email. Like it's so basic, but it's something that I think very few organizations really think about. So, but trade shows are fun, and they're a great way to continue to be connected to people
Th-
there.
This also feels
Um,
like, oh,
Want
sorry,
to
Kate.
talk a little bit more about sales enablement overall. I think this is super commonplace when you have a high touch approach to your customer experience, but it's really additive to be able to employ automation or AI or other tools in the process. You want to talk a little bit about, I can remember that you didn't love some of the technology in your marketing and technology stack. In the early stages, like HubSpot was a tool that you were using, but just about ready to
Struggle
kick it to the
bus.
curb. So talk a little bit about some of the
Absolute struggle
sales
bus.
enablement things that you worked
Christiana
on.
probably has a lot of stories of me voicing
It
my frustration with
it
HubSpot.
was
I'm like,
it was
what
a
do we
sore
do? We think
spot.
it was terrible. And I don't even like to think about it. It's like now that it's fixed and, all the things, but, uh, customer experience has always been such a high touch point for us. So we knew what we wanted out of HubSpot specifically, but we couldn't get it, right? We were not, whatever was happening, just it was not working. So thankfully, after many blood, sweat, and tears hours and the amazingness of Kayla on the Red Caffeine team, we were able to pause and really fix and spend the time, dig our heels in. So we were able to track that full customer journey and really give us consistency across all of our departments with our customers to service them better. But it was tough. It was tough. It was a lot of frustrations with that. But we're
I mean,
fixed now and going.
I also think it contributed, getting some of that solved, Kate. Wouldn't you agree that that also lended itself to, the way you were able to show up and prove out the ROI of these booth investments and trade show
Absolutely.
presence too? Because it really did also give the sales team an opportunity to stay focused on
Yep.
what they were doing there and the alignment with each other there, because we had automated some of that
Yep.
pre, during, and post. They knew it was taken care of also. So I think that lended itself to some of that work as well.
And we knew, I think the main thing when I go to trade shows that I'm buying at, I think of like IMTS or FabTech. If I'm going to buy equipment, the most frustrating thing is when you don't receive the follow up,
Hmm.
right? And so that has always been a thing for me. So knowing that our team could just do the work in the trade show booth, and there was going to be follow up, with the automation side of it
Yeah.
was good.
Daily. I mean,
Successful
they were
daily.
upload the lists were getting uploaded and we were responding in real time so that there was no
Yep.
missed opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think follow up is it is it's really
It seems
so interesting.
simple, right? It seems simple.
It's so interesting. I can remember thinking, I've gotten direct mail pieces, like really nice things, like beautiful things sent to me, and then nobody calls me, and I'm thinking, do they really think that that person is going to pick up the phone just because they sent you something really nice? I just always am astounded by trade shows or really a nice gift that lands on your desk and then there's really no proactive follow-up. It seems so basic to
Yep.
do something like that. So I think we also wanted to kind of touch on you know, beyond the tech with the marketing technology stack, the actual website redesign. So we, really took a hard look at your digital presence and worked hard on bringing a new site to life with some interesting user experience features. So again, I think even in the early stages of our conversations, I wasn't really thinking that this was a major piece of opportunity for us. But as we got in and did the auditing and unearthed some of the potential upside of doing a new website, it just became clear that this was an asset that really needed to be retooled as well.
It's true. I feel like that was one of the hardest things to hear was how crappy our website was. And I don't know how to say that but without, any differently. But, I was like, no, it's fine. it's fine. And you're like, yeah, it's fine. And I'm like, okay, and then it's like, oh yeah, it is fine, but it's like a brochure. It's not functional. It's not interactive. It didn't tell the story of the brand. Uh, so after I wish I would have known how much time like prior that we were going to spend on building the website, because it was a fun project, and we were able to put every ounce of the family in it. And so I don't know all the details of it as far as making sure everything's right, but I'm like, feels like ours now. But the interactive piece, with the grinder finder, and which is so funny, everyone loves that phrase, grinder finder,
Yes.
and the AI bot, it's interactive. I think in dealing with all the different generations, obviously you have the ones that want to pick up the phone and talk to someone, but this younger generation likes to dig and research on their own. So now we have the tools for them to do that on our website, and then they can be informed when they're calling or when they're contacting, um, and it's an amazing platform for both our customers and our employees.
And Kate, hadn't you said too, it made a difference on the customer service side in terms of saving their time because now people
Mm-hmm.
are calling in a more informed way. They've already done
Absolutely.
some of the advanced work using the grinder finder, so they know once they call what they're asking about, right?
Yeah, I remember the first time we got a call that was like, "Oh, I'd like to talk about the Maximus grinder," and I was like, "Holy cow, somebody's checking out this website, right?" Um, but yeah, I myself, I like to research things, whether I'm onto, whether it be new CNC equipment or whatever. I like to do my research myself, so I'm glad we now have it in our own business.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very common. There's no, it's not the same as it used to be. Buyers are coming very informed. They're almost down to the decision
Yes.
before they've actually, engaged with a salesperson. So to be able to add tools to your online presence to give them the resources that they need, whether it be, the chat or a grinder finder tool, I think it's just those are table stakes for businesses today to really have that online presence that meets the customer's needs. And then I think it feels like sometimes you're using tech or using an AI chatbot feels like impersonal. But for me, like sometimes I want to just
Yes.
use chat. I don't want to have to talk to a human or what have you. I want to get some quick details. So to your point of the generational appetite for using different approaches to getting information or having a conversation, really meeting the customers across all generations and
And so
preference. I think
responsive,
it's
that
super
AI
Yes.
important.
I
chatbot, right? It's like the concierge of all the things from grinding solutions.
Yeah,
Um,
that was an important thing for you all, Kate, if you don't mind me sharing,
yep,
because you wanted to make sure that the customer experience was customized in the chatbot and that it wouldn't feel impersonal. We wanted to make sure it was following all of the user journeys that had been set up for the site and the navigation from the beginning so that people did feel like they were being guided through to get their answers and that they would still have that Rome touch on things.
yep. That was otherwise prior to that it was, a live person here in the office, which is amazing, but people get busy and things get missed, and that was a big one for us. Responsiveness.
Yes. Kathy, are you there?
Having
Uh-oh.
the technical
We might have lost
difficulties today.
Kathy
Might have
again.
lost Kathy again.
We might have lost Kathy again. Okay, no worries. So I think, Kate, maybe we could shift to the internal side of the business
Sure.
because part of the engagement was around talent and culture. And you touched on this a little bit about, when we were talking about featuring the Rome work family in the photos, but for social, for recruiting purposes, how did the employer brand work that we did together, especially giving employees a voice, impact the internal culture? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. When we dug through the bare bones of all of this, and I keep saying that because it's like I feel like we went down to the studs, right? And I felt like everyone had a voice and everyone had a platform. Oh, come, I'm here every day. But what really happened was that I feel like we weren't listening enough to the conversation. So getting them involved in this process. Hearing the stories and making that culture more visible and authentic on both sides of the red door. And literally, we have red doors in our office. There was just this disconnect that all of a sudden everybody's contributing to. And I wouldn't say it was like it definitely wasn't obviously an overnight thing, but the people that were not buying into the culture and what we were trying to do, um, it was very clear that either changes needed to be made or people needed to leave, because we were not going backwards, and the ripple down effect was something that I didn't see coming, and it was the employees seeing themselves as actual true collaborators and team members and not employees, right? um, they took a sense of ownership. They really started to feel valued, and they started contributing in ways that I hadn't thought about. Organic conversations about collaboration and working better within the departments, or more respect for each other. And there was just a sense of pride that I guess I just didn't see that was missing. Um, it's been amazing to watch.
Yeah, I felt like when you shared that with me recently, just how much all of a sudden you felt there was such a culture shift. And like you said, it took a bit to get there, and it wasn't an overnight change. But now that you're thinking about it and you're noticing things that, like, even having a little less staff than you had when we started working
Yeah.
together, but being more optimized, being able to, people want to show up, they know that their coworkers need count on them to show up, so they're coming to work. You were using other types of incentivization for those types of things, and it just wasn't working. And now,
No.
that is not an issue
The
any
one
longer.
thing we
That
did to you think if I taking a step back, it's like I thought I was communicating. I thought our leadership and our specifically our executive team was communicating so well. Our you know the next steps and the vision, all these things. And what we found out was that we were just obviously dropping the ball. So we learned a lot about what to communicate and when to communicate. You know, the having town hall meetings. We always have food trucks around here. It's like making those a priority and having conversations with, what we're doing the next day, or what projects they're working, production staff is working on that maybe the sales staff isn't aware about. Just the collaboration as a whole, the communication was just missing on big picture of what was going on in and around Realm Grinding Solutions.
Yeah, and I think Christiana and I both have seen firsthand just how much you care
Yes.
about your team and your culture, and how much you know about your employees and their families, and it's compelling. So to know that that wasn't really permeating through in a meaningful way, that the employees felt that value, I'm so grateful that that's a shift that's been made. It's
Yeah,
not
me too.
always like a dollars and cents shift that you see, but there is absolutely something to an engaged workforce culture that is,
Yeah.
you can't put a measure on that.
Yeah, the buy-in was definitely quick,
Yeah.
Yeah,
thankfully. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I know, I hope everyone, I appreciate the patience with my little bit of a technical difficulties throughout today's session. I know we are. And Kate, I just, as we're closing out, I want to, what would you share with other leaders, or what are some of the look forwards for you at Rome as you're really thinking about this continued emphasis on growth?
Sky's the limit Is that a good answer? Because that's what I feel like. Um, you know, a focused team is and a collaborative team is can take you places that you couldn't have even dreamed about, right? What I've really learned about in this process was that my pipe dreams, you know, of what the vision that I would, and I say I, myself, my, you know, my actual family and, you know, what we want for this business can become a reality. But you have to be okay with going back and depending on experts, right? We always say that Red Caffeine is an extension of our team, and that is so true. You guys are the expert in this. We're the expert in, you know, manufacturing grinders or whatever. Collaborating with people that you trust and you connect with, I, I think is so beneficial and can't be stressed enough that we get to focus on our business, and you guys get to elevate us to and help us with whatever it is that's the next thing for us. And I
Yeah.
love
Well, thank you. I mean, I just love that. And I mean, I think we embrace that too. You know, there's, you know, I don't do my own plumbing and we don't, you know, we work with other fractional teams.
You don't do your own plumbing?
No, I don't, you know, sometimes you just need an expert, right? So, you know, I think those are the things that all of us mid-market businesses are really leaning into, that, you know, that it isn't possible always to have full-time people working in our organization. So partnering is kind of the new normal for most organizations to really get best in class, you know, teams together, and it doesn't really have to be the way it used to be, where everyone is working in the same office
And that fresh
together.
perspective,
So
the fresh perspective
Yeah.
has been pivotal.
yeah. So, well, Kate, I'm gonna thank you so much for joining us. We're going to share how to get a hold of you. I am sure that people will have some additional questions. I hope you'll want to learn more about Rome and
I need
visit
a new
your website.
headshot.
But if you want to talk to Kate,
Guys, this is proof I need a new headshot.
she needs a new headshot. So if you're a photographer, no, I love this headshot. So you're just going to have to grow your hair back out. And then, so Kate's email address and her LinkedIn link are noted here. So please reach out, let her know that you heard this on Business as Unusual. So she will know where this is coming from. Neil, Schwan, thank you. You're always so lovely. Thank you so much for the compliment. We appreciate
so nice.
you attending and being a part of Business as Unusual so frequently. With that, I want to thank our sponsors. We've got M3 Learning. They are one of the most influential and successful sales management and training companies worldwide. They've got kind of a new leadership and a new lease on life. So please check them out if you're looking for sales coaching and training for your team. And then HR Source is the go-to resource for employers. And excitingly, Mary Lynn Fayomi will be our next guest on Business as Unusual. We have not talked much about talent and workforce this year, and it's been crazy. I honestly, you know, those who regularly follow Red Caffeine's Business as Unusual, Mary Lynn's been a frequent guest and co-host, and I always learn a ton from her, but like I have never seen her quite as stressed as I saw her earlier this year. This has been a real tumultuous year for workforce issues. And so we're going to talk about the most hot button items that are challenging leaders today. We're going to talk about DE&I. We're going to talk about AI and hiring. We're going to talk about immigration laws and all the things that are going on with workforce. So if you've got a question, we're going to really try and make this super interactive. If you want to hear what's on the minds of other CEOs, please join us for this next session of Business as Unusual. And I want to thank again Christiana for joining us and really taking over for me when I left the scene.
I can't wait to recap
today.
after this.
I know.
I'm glad it was a very such a game time decision to have
I'm
you
so glad
join
I
us today,
did.
but I am so grateful that you did it and saved the day. And Kate, I'm just so thrilled to continue to work with you. I can't wait to see what's next for Rome. You and your team are such a
You guys
pleasure
are
to be
nice.
around. I just
Thanks.
enjoy you
Thanks
all
for
so
having me.
much,
You guys are
and I hope
awesome.
people, yeah, I hope people took something away and have a new introspective around what can happen for growth in your business and a little more insight into manufacturing.
Thanks, you guys.